Korvold Fae-Cursed King versus Korvold Fae-Cursed King. Timna the Weaver partnered with Tana the Bloodsower and Yidris Maelstrom Wielder. We've got a pretty good hand there, or I should say we've got a hand that can get us into our commander fairly quickly. We've got stuff to do in the early turns, but it's the type of hand that we're going to empty out really quickly, so hopefully we get into card draw other than our commander. Mana Dorks coming out for our first two opponents, followed by a tapped Shock, which we will match. A Felwar Stone for Yidris, followed by Yisan, the Wanderer Bard, for the partner player. Very good commander in his own right. Demonic Tutor for Korvold. Alright, we're getting to another green land, so let's just drop the Tiger. We can get another tap land out with the 3 visits. Then Underworld Dreams. When an opponent draws a card, it deals 1 damage to that player. And straight away, Nature's Claim going on to Underworld Dreams from the partner player. Not too sure about that. You might want to hold off and see if Underworld Dreams is actually going to do a whole lot to you. Although the partner player might be looking to play wheels and stuff. So they might have more reason to be worried about an Underworld Dreams than we realise. Also, white bordered. That's just not on. Deathrite Shaman for the partner player. They got that off of the Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. Let's close this graveyard so we don't have to look at that hideous white border card anymore. Awakening Zone from the Korvold. Wouldn't mind one of those myself. We've got that in this deck. And we get into some more ramp. A little bit late for that. And we're going in for Korvold next turn anyway, potentially. So let's just go for the Parallel Lives here. And if they've got any spot removal, that will no doubt go on to there. Might not actually go in for our commander next turn though, because we don't really have a whole lot to sacrifice currently. Although we could get another card draw from Prismatic Vista if it stays out long enough. A Fevered Visions, so this looks like it's some kind of Nekusar type deck, not usually what you'll see from Yidris. These are typical Nekusar cards, so maybe it's Nekusar with green, and they can shoot a Nekusar out of the deck. Sometimes people will make a deck with their commander buried in the 99. Not something I would ever do, but some people do go for that. Noteworthy that they are missing land drops as well. Then a Stony Silence. Activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. That puts the Yidris player on even less mana. And then they play a Skull Clamp, which seems counterintuitive if you're running Stony Silence. Does switch off our Spawning Pit as well though, so that's something to remember. A Sprouting Thrynax. Again, that's in this deck as well. Our opponent is drawing into their own sack fodder. Unlike us, we cannot draw into anything other than lands apparently. Let's get the Kerkeep down and the Birds of Paradise. And then we go in for an activation on the Kerkeep, and then we can tap out and pass. We get a couple of the Kobolds because of our Parallel Lives, already making use of that. And we draw into a Mana Vault. Why did we draw a card there? Oh, at the beginning of each player's end step, that player draws a card. And if they have 4 or more cards in hand, it deals 2 damage to that player. So we are now on 38. But we did get some more mana out of our library. Well, our opponent does have access to red mana, thanks to that Birds of Paradise. And they might want to go for Reforge the Soul here. Because apparently they're missing land drops. So I think we're going to see a wheel here. And they are going to do that. It's going to put the partner player up by a few cards. We're all drawing 7 here. Alright, yeah, that's nice. We get into a Tutor. And we've got the Bloodghast as well. Unfortunately, it gets rid of our Prismatic Vista. That's another sacrifice effect. if we didn't have the Stony Silence in play, we'd actually go for a Skull Clamp. And then we could get a hell of a lot of card draw on the go. See if our opponent can deal with that. They did make a land. Let's see what everyone discarded, actually, while we're here. There's a Wheel of Fate, so yeah, this is definitely some kind of Nekusar-style deck. Nature's Claim, getting rid of that Stony Silence, and switching on the Skull Clamp. During our opponent's turn, that will be active, so I don't know about that. They should have kept hold of the Nature's Claim for after the partner player has passed their turn, I think, because they've got the option of going for Skull Clamp here. Now going to activate Yisan. I think they're doing this at the end of Yidris' turn. Yes, they are. They went for Thalia, Garden of Thraben. Yes, so what were we on? That is Geth's Grimoire, Fate Unraveler, Nightscape Familiar, Windfall, Reforge the Soul we obviously know about. And then there is a Scalding Tarn, Eidolon of Rhetoric, Animate Dead, a land, the Stony Silence again, we know about. And now they are casting Thorn of Amethyst. And then Yisan again, showing how good Yisan is. Let's see what Korvold discarded. A Beast Within, Demonic Tutor they'd already cast, Sakura Tribe Elder, Squirrel Nest, that again is in this deck, and that combos off with Earthcraft. So that might be a combo piece that they searched for. A Plague of Vermin, Necropotence, and Hanweir Garrison. So I don't know what they tutored for there. I wouldn't have thought they would have gone for Necropotence. Oh, and we've actually had all of our land switched off here, thanks to this player, Magus of the Moon. Turns all the non-basics into mountains. So tutoring for some removal with the Diabolic Intent sounds like a good idea. Lightning Greaves, a 4-mana Lightning Greaves coming down for the Korvold player. Yeah, Toxic Deluge sounds like it wouldn't be the worst at the moment. Then swinging that in at Tymna and Tana. And they're just going to take it. I don't suppose our opponent minds who they block with there. Okay, let's see. Well, we'll get a basic in just in case that Magus of the Moon sticks around. Then we'll go in for Mana Crypt. Oh, Mana Crypt will actually cost 2, won't it? Is our opponent going to wheel? I mean, I think we have to go for Diabolic Intent here. We'll sack a Kobold. And we're just setting up for a Toxic Deluge next turn, I think. So we'll do that. Can't cast it this turn thanks to Thalia. And not Skull Clamp, the Thorn of Amethyst. And everything in our hand, apart from Mana Crypt, is going to cost too much. So let's go for Mana Crypt here. And we'll pass over. We draw with the Fevered Visions again. And we get into a Badlands. Yidris Maelstrom Wielder coming out. Worldly Tutor during Tymna's upkeep. We'll be able to put a creature on top for them to draw into. Another Hate Bear of some kind, maybe. When it enters the battlefield, untap all creatures you control. Well, at least we know they've got it. They're not going to take us by surprise with that. So they're just making more mana with Deathrite Shaman. Probably going to tap all their creatures here and then use the creature that they just grabbed to get something else in with Yisan. Then they play the Village Bellringer to untap everything and again making more mana with the Deathrite Shaman. Then going for Reanimate onto the Eidolon of Rhetoric. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. And then they've got another creature to grab with Yisan. And that is Felidar Guardian. Exile another creature. And then bring it back into play. They went for the Village Bellringer. So they untap all their stuff again. And I'm hoping we're not too late to wipe the board here. Now going for Kiki-Jiki. Oh, and they can go infinite with Felidar Guardian and Kiki-Jiki, can't they? Yeah, so that's infinite. They can make as many Felidar Guardians as they like. and go wide on every single player and swinging at us all for lethal. Just asking both players if anyone's got anything, clearly. The Yidris player doesn't. I mean, if anyone had anything at instant speed, I would think that they would be able to go for it now in response to all this. And yeah, it's a good game from everybody. Let's say good game. And that is that. Our opponent makes infinite Felidar Guardian tokens, goes wide on everyone. And that's the end of that. Let's see if we can get an actual game going. Alright, let's try again. Korvold Fae-Cursed King versus Yidris Maelstrom Wielder, Syr Gwyn, hero of Ashvale, and Gishath, Sun's Avatar. Need to make this. Yeah, go for another dinosaur build. Need to replay Atla as well. List as long as my arm. We are not keeping that. It's a terrible hand. That is... ugh, that's not good either. Well, we get a free mulligan in multiplayer, so no need not to go for it again. Okay, what have we got there? Well, there's Caustic Caterpillar that we can cast. Gaia's Cradle, Nature's Law, we can fix our mana. Empty our hand nice and quickly by the looks of it. Get out of doubling season in the meantime. Let's keep. And Gaia's Cradle I think we actually have to get rid of there because we only have one creature in hand. For all the token development that there is in this deck, we don't seem to draw into it. Chrome Mox with a 3 visits underneath it for a Badlands into a Signet. Don't know about putting 3 visits under a Chrome Mox. It seems like it's a little bit counterintuitive. Alright, we get into another land, so that's good. Don't need Caustic Caterpillar yet, so let's just get a tap land out. Yeah, it might be that our opponent doesn't have another land to draw into, so maybe they had to go for the Chrome Mox, but 3 visits gets you into another land, which is way less fragile than a Chrome Mox is. We'll see if they drop a land next turn. Just a land for Syr Gwyn and Gishath. And Yidris does manage to drop another land, so they're on 4 mana on turn 2. Which is pretty good. Then going in for Bloom Tender for even more mana. We've only got 3 cards left in hand now. Followed by a Lightning Greaves. Let's see if they can get another card out with the Bloom Tender. They cannot, they're just tapping out and passing the turn. We get into another land. We don't struggle drawing into lands in this deck. Let's grab that Nature's Law. Grab ourselves an Overgrown Tomb, I think. I don't want to be too reliant on Urborg for black mana, because someone could get rid of that. So, Overgrown Tomb in tapped. And again, passing over to our opponent. A Gruul Signet from Gishath. So all of us just on the ramp plan currently. A Felwar Stone for Syr Gwyn. They'll be able to add every colour with that because they've got Naya here and blue there and black over here as well. So Felwar Stone is going to be a really good mana rock for our opponent, which I'm sure they're very much glad of because Hall of Heliod's Generosity only adds a colourless. Now the first commander of the game coming out on turn 3, Yidris, Maelstrom Wielder, and it can have haste. Our opponent doesn't have many spells to cast with Cascade, but Bloom Tender is going to tap for 4 mana, which means they've got access to 5, and they swing in at us. Then immediately tapping down the Bloom Tender and getting down Geth's Grimoire with Cascade. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may draw one. And we know from the last game that this player is looking to get into some kind of Nekusar Wheels mass discard deck. Draw Pain and all the rest of it. They've snuck down a Nightscape Familiar as well. We draw another land. So I think it's just Caustic Caterpillar. Yeah, we'll play out the Caustic Caterpillar and hold up mana so that we can get rid of Geth's Grimoire if needs be. We might even want to blow up the Lightning Greaves depending on what our opponent plays. So let's go Caustic Caterpillar. And we'll hold up the Marsh Flats, probably going to get a tap land in with that. More mana from Gishath. That's typically what you expect from a Gishath player, just to ramp in the early game. They don't have white currently. And the first dinosaur, a runic armor saw. And the first dinosaur is a runic armor saw. Whenever an opponent activates the ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. So if we go for Caustic Caterpillar, they are going to draw off of that. And even more ramp from Syr Gwyn. They have access to all 3 colours now, but they're missing lands, which is not really something you want to be doing. Then playing out Order of Midnight. That's a 2-1 flyer, I think. A 2-2 flyer that can't block. It's a human knight. Okay, very strangely, deciding to just tap everything out. They've got 1 card in hand that they clearly can't do anything with, so just going to hold back. So we will not do anything with the Caustic Caterpillar. And our Marsh Flats will trigger the Runic Armor Saw because that is not a mana ability. Gishath going up to 5 cards in hand there. We'll put a Blood Crypt in tapped and get on with our turn now. I think we'll hold off on the Wooded Foothills. We don't have any use for Doubling Season yet either. But how quickly is the game going to go from here? There's 2, 4 and 5 mana there. I don't think they're going to generate 3 mana in 1 turn. Maybe it is time to get down Doubling Season. Or we could just go Swiftfoot Boots and then play our commander next turn. And equip that. Activate Wooded Foothills for some card draw. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And this way we can still hold up the Caustic Caterpillar as well. So we might as well put that onto our Caterpillar. Now let's see if Gishath can get into some white mana here. We might have to blow up something like a Chromatic Lantern if they play that, and they're relying on the white mana for it. Commune with Dinosaurs, I don't know that one. Look at the top 5 cards, reveal the dinosaur or land, and the rest go on the bottom. They get into that plains that they needed, then immediately play it. And now an Alzacan Seer. It adds 1 mana of any colour, and you can sack it to return a dinosaur from graveyard to hand. And the 2-5 is going to sit back, which isn't surprising with a Yidris in play. Syr Gwyn managing to get into that land as well, so just fixing the colours even further. Then going for Acclaimed Contender. Really good in Night Tribal decks. They show us a Sure Strike Trident. The equipped creature has first strike. Tap and unattach it. It deals damage equal to its power to a player or planeswalker. That's 2 to play and 4 to equip. And then the Flying Knight might as well swing in because it can't block, so it's going to fly over everything straight into Yidris. And now it's fingers crossed that Yidris doesn't draw into anything and that they continue to be ground to a halt. And it's also worth pointing out that the Sure Strike Trident has not been played either. So Syr Gwyn might have wanted to hold on to some kind of removal. Again, just playing a land and passing over. So Yidris might have gotten off to a really fast start but didn't have anything to do with all the mana. And swinging in this time, coming back in at us. And they decide to play a Sol Ring with Cascade. Don't really see what they could get into with Cascade. Maybe a Mana Crypt. Yes, that's exactly what they wheel into. So they go up by 4 mana here, with the potential of getting bolted every turn. Well, at least Yidris can come back down again from being put into the command zone, and they can cast whatever they draw into. We just keep drawing into lands. So let's go for Korvold. And I don't think we have to worry about activating Caustic Caterpillar. If Yidris draws into a wheel, then it gets us all a bunch more cards anyway. And if they cast a wheel, they'll end up drawing way more than 7 thanks to the Geth's Grimoire, but it just paints an even bigger target on their head, so I'm not going to worry about that. We will sacrifice the Mountain, and that will put a plus counter on our Korvold, and it'll get us into even more mana. So let's put the Swiftfoot Boots on the Korvold. We'll play the Mana Crypt, and let's go in at the player that keeps coming in at us. I'm going to sacrifice the Caustic Caterpillar because I don't want to keep sacrificing mana. We get an anger, that's really good to sacrifice. It means that our Korvold will always have haste when it comes in. As long as we still have a graveyard, that is. And there is a Thundering Spineback. 1 mana away from Gishath coming in. Other dinosaurs get +1/+1, and you can create a dinosaur creature token with trample for 6 mana. I think they're 1 mana off. That is 3, 6, and 7. Yeah, 1 more mana, and Gishath's coming into play. That's one thing for us all to be wary of, because Gishath does have haste. Arcane Signet, even further ramp for Syr Gwyn, but these are just acting as lands currently. And if someone goes to wipe the board of artifacts, Syr Gwyn is really going to struggle here. Need to try and make your land drops every single turn, preferably. Alright, well there's some indestructible knights now. And they get +1/+1. And Order of Midnight going in at Gishath, noticing that that commander will be coming down next turn probably. Now the knight player could double block Gishath, but they would lose their Knight Exemplar if they were to do that. Again, just dropping a land and passing the turn. Yidris not having the best of luck here. They've got lots and lots of mana. How much have they got? That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. Plus something can cost less. So yeah, they can cast anything they draw into. They just have to actually draw into it. See how much luck we have with this Mana Crypt. Not much luck apparently. We get bolted. And guess what? Just draw into another land. Well, we'll sacrifice one of our fetches and that'll draw us a card. It will also draw the Gishath player a card as well. Okay, that's more card draw with Sylvan Library. That's not worthless. We'll go for a Bayou. Then let's cast this Anger. And we'll swing in and see what we draw into. You just decided not to swing in at us there, so they're clearly starting to use their noggin on that front. Let's go for Gishath here. Do we want to... We'll go in at Syr Gwyn, because Gishath might be swinging in at Syr Gwyn because Syr Gwyn swung in at Gishath. That's the type of petty thinking that some people do employ. I'm not saying that either of our opponents will do that or that they do think like that, but that's sometimes how people think. Okay, Sprouting Thrynax is good to go for next turn. I think we have to go for Sylvan Library here. Doubling Season and Sprouting Thrynax might be a good idea in one turn. Can we afford that? That's 4, 5 and 3. Yes, we can, so let's just go Sylvan Library here. And now we are wide open, so we have to hope that no one swings in at us. Gishath does drop a land, so we're likely to see a Windmill Slam on their commander here. Fingers crossed that Syr Gwyn has Swords to Plowshares in hand. And there we are. Let's see where it's swinging in. Oh, actually, they can't double block with the Knights to get rid of Gishath. I forgot about the +1/+1, so... Does it have Trample? Yeah, Vigilance, Trample and Haste, and that is coming in at us. Just swinging in with one creature at least, so not as bad as it could be. But we are by far the lowest life total at the table here, so we might be forced into some kind of board wipe. They flip into a good few creatures. That is Thrash of Raptors, Ranging Raptors, and Charging Monstrosaur. Yeah, definitely in board wipe territory now. If you can rely on anyone for a board wipe, it should be a Mardu player. But they may not have one in hand. They will keep 2 of their creatures if they board wipe. Assuming it's not a Toxic Deluge. Down comes that Sure Strike Trident, which they decided not to play a few turns ago. They can equip that if they want to. Does it get a buff at all? No, it doesn't get a buff to power or toughness. It's literally just to throw damage around equal to power. Then the Order of Midnight going in at Gishath. And now it's over to Yidris again to watch them drop their land and pass the turn. And Yidris clearly didn't draw into anything else, so just deciding to scoop it up. I mean, they have another few turns to draw into something and they've got plenty of mana to do whatever, but clearly they are bored of waiting. We lose the flip again. I don't think we're destined to win this one either, especially not if we keep just drawing into lands. Watch us reveal a couple more lands off the top with Sylvan Library. Almost. Avenger of Zandakar's pretty good though, so let's put that on top. And the Ancient Tomb is the last land we want to see. Now, unfortunately, we haven't gotten down doubling season before now. How much mana are we going to have? 2, 4, 6, 8. And then that leaves us with 2, so we can't even get the Sprouting Thrynax down, can we? Oh well, let's get some chump blockers in with Avenger of Zendikar. I don't think it's going to be enough. In fact, why don't we'll go for Polluted Delta now, because Avenger of Zendikar's lands aren't going to be big enough for us to have the Gishath swing in elsewhere. So let's just try and get into a board wipe. And continue to feed cards to Gishath, apparently. So we shuffle up our library with the Polluted Delta. We'll just get a swamp into play. Then we'll go in for Avenger of Zendikar. And that'll give us plenty to sacrifice. How much stuff has trample though? So that has trample. That has trample thanks to other dinosaurs being in play. That has trample. That doesn't, and that does not. Yeah, I think we just have to leave it there. I was going to swing in with Korvold, hence the reason that I went for the Polluted Delta to shuffle the library before going for Avenger of Zendikar. But now that I think about it, just leaving Korvold back is a better idea. So what we should have done there is cast Avenger of Zendikar and then played the Polluted Delta to put a load of plus counters on these, and they would have been 2 3s. But at least we've shuffled up our library now, so we can look at a fresh 3 on the top with Sylvan Library. A flyer, 4/4 flyer. When it enters, another target creature you control gets +1/+1 and flying until the end of the turn. Well, we're going to be trading commanders here, potentially. If they decide to still swing in Gishath our way. Does this just swing in to trigger, or does it have to deal combat damage? Yes, it's when it deals combat damage to a player. And now, finally, yeah, thanks to us leaving that Korvold untapped, I think, yeah, they're swinging in everything at the Mardu player. So that's worked out very nicely for us. Might actually take the Mardu player out here. Syr Gwyn has 4 cards in hand. Might as well block with an indestructible. So they'll get rid of the Thrash of Raptors here. And then they plummet down to 7 with 9 commander damage. Gishath will trigger. And I don't think they got another dinosaur there. Oh, the Sun-Crowned Hunters. When it's dealt damage, it deals 3 damage to a target opponent or planeswalker. And then Huatli, Warrior Poet, comes down. You gain life equal to the greatest power amongst creatures you control, so they jump up to 43. I think the greatest power was 9 there. Alright, looks like our opponent was going to swing in at the planeswalker, but then noticed that this thing has flying. They wouldn't lose their creature. I mean, doesn't really make much difference if they swing in or not, because it's indestructible and it can't block. But they decide not to waste any time and get on with casting something. Going for Merciless Eviction, and that is all creatures. Well, that slows the game down nicely, doesn't it? 4 cards in Gishath's hand, and Gishath will cost 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 4, 6, and 8. So there's still a couple of mana away. They can start throwing out free dinosaur tokens, though. And I think we might have to sacrifice that mana crypt if it keeps hurting us. Well, it doesn't hurt us this time. Zendikari Surgeon, Ophiomancer and a land. Well, we can put the land on top. Zendikari Surgeon might be the thing to go for. 2, 4, 6 and 7. We play a land. Can we go for Sprouting Thrynax as well? Yes, I think we can. So let's put the Ophiomancer on top. And the land on top as well. And then we'll play that Zendikari Surgeon. And then we'll go in for Urborg. And that means that we can play out the Ancient Tomb next turn as well and not worry about the life loss there. So let's get down this Sprouting Thrynax as well. Or do we just want to go for Doubling Season? I think Doubling Season's actually a more intelligent play here because that means that we can probably go in for our commander and the Sprouting Thrynax next turn. And that will get us into 6 blockers if we decide to sacrifice it. Just have my fingers crossed that Gishath doesn't get into something big and hasty here. Well, that doesn't have haste. A Crested Herd Caller. When it enters, you get a 3/3 dinosaur with trample. So plenty of trample in this deck, which is the last thing we want to see. Then making another dinosaur with Huatli. And cracking the Naya Panorama, making their way up to enough mana to get down their commander. I don't think that ramps actually, does it? No, it's just getting rid of a land for another land, just some colour fixing. So Gishath is still on 8 mana. We've got haste from Syr Gwyn to worry about as well. They are in red, and there's plenty of equipments that give haste. But I think at the moment it's looking like the two of us versus the dinosaur player. And there is Syr Gwyn. And equipping up the Sure Strike Trident for free. They do have Summoning Sickness, so they can't activate that. But they could throw 5 damage somewhere if they wanted to. Once it has its Summoning Sickness knocked off, that is. Fingers crossed for the Mana Crypt again. We win the flip again, so we've had a couple of lucky turns there. All Brass's Bounty. We get a treasure token for each land we control. Yeah, I think, how much mana do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Doubled up is 18. And 20 with the Mana Crypt. Just trying to decide if we want to take some damage for the Ophiomancer, so that we can actually have some blockers. Yeah, let's put that on top and let's just play risky. We're not likely to win this one anyway, I don't think, but we shall try. Let's drop the Ancient Tomb. Go for our Korvold. And we'll draw a card with Zendikari Surgeon. We know what we're drawing into because we just put it on top. And now we've just got fresh cards on top. Let's sacrifice this Mana Crypt before it kills us. Wiping the board for 5 is risky, but it does mean that nothing's swinging in at us. Let's go for this Brass's Bounty first of all. We get a treasure token for each land we control, or 2 for each land we control, thanks to Doubling Season. So we can put a bunch of plus counters on Korvold and take the Gishath player out. Yeah, I think we might still have to Toxic Deluge though. Let's swing him first of all and see what happens. Sacrifice a treasure token. Looks like this is going to go through, so let's just sacrifice some treasures. We won't be making use of the mana, but we will be drawing some cards. Should have done that before attacking really, but I was worried about some interference from Syr Gwyn. We're getting 2 plus counters every time we do this, by the way, thanks to the Doubling Season. Okay, so it's 22 commander damage onto our opponent. We don't have any instants to cast, so that takes out Gishath. And then I think it will be an idea to go for Toxic Deluge as well, just so that our opponent can't buff up the Syr Gwyn and just throw a load of damage at us. So we'll wipe the board for 5, use the floating mana, put that Swiftfoot Boots onto our commander to protect it. And I think we're alright just leaving it there, aren't we? In fact, let's go for the Dockside Extortionist. And we can get down the Ophiomancer as well, just to play it really safe. We get even more treasure tokens with that. 8, in fact, because our opponent controls 4 artifacts. And there is a Vampiric Tutor that we can't go for. Gonna have to add some life gain to this deck, I think. Grab the Ophiomancer. Draw even more cards. And that's just in here to get the Death Toucher into play. I think... yeah, I think we'll just leave it there. So let's discard anything that deals damage to us. And we'll get rid of some lands. And we'll get rid of these as well. Noteworthy actually, I'm still getting used to playing this deck. I think it's only the second game I played. Had we have gone for sacrificing the treasures before swinging in at Syr Gwyn, we could have actually played down Prosh with haste, couldn't we? I keep forgetting about the fact that Anger's in the graveyard. So probably could have, in fact we could have taken out Syr Gwyn here, so if we get burned out it's my own fault. But yeah, that's what I should have done there, is sacrifice the treasures to put enough power onto Korvold, taken out the other player like we did, and then swung in Prosh at the Syr Gwyn player, and that would have had enough power on it to get rid of the Knight player. So we'll just see if they've got a lightning bolt or something here. And our opponent says that they didn't draw into anything, so it's good game. Yeah, still having to get used to Korvold and all the other new decks that I've built. This is the problem, when new sets come out you've got that many decks to build, and you might have players online that only ever play 1 or 2 decks and they're very well versed in said decks and very good at piloting them. But when you have to build lots of different decks and spread yourself incredibly thin like I do with this channel, then you don't necessarily know how to pilot all the decks as well as you should. And I definitely could have taken out Syr Gwyn at the same time as the other player there with the Prosh play that I mentioned. So a little bit of a clunky victory there, but it does show off what you can do with Korvold. And I think that's the second time. I think I did this last game as well, making use of Brass's Bounty. Yeah, Brass's Bounty is a really, really good card in Korvold, and it comes in highly recommended from me for whatever that's worth. Especially if you're running cards like Doubling Season and Parallel Lives, which we are in this deck because we've got token producers like, well, the 2 cards we see here, for instance. Saw Avenger of Zendikar previously. Prosh and Sprouting Thrynax all produce tokens as well. That's all sack fodder for our Korvold. So hopefully you all enjoyed this game. Apologies for the mistakes there, but like I said, I'm still getting used to it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.